Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Fight.1 podcast with your hosts, Max Karabine and Alek Specogna.
Hey yo, what it do? And we're live
What's
for
up?
the very
What's up?
first episode of the Fight.1 podcast. I'm Maxime Karabine here with my co-host, the one and only, the best announcer in the country, Alek Specogna. What's up, G?
How you doing, brother? How you doing?
I am pretty well, man. I haven't been excited like that in a while, G. New podcast. We're here. The Fight.1 We will cover everything about Montreal's local fight scene, from the amateur kickboxing show to the UFC fighters interviews. We're here. How pumped are you, Alek?
Dude, I'm really pumped. I feel like I'm about to go do a show right now. You know what I mean? I mean, honestly, it feels funny because it's funny seeing you, but I'm not about to go yell at anybody right now. You know what I mean? So
Nobody's gonna punch in the face of anybody tonight.
no, not tonight, not tonight. You know, my wife might beat me a little bit, but you know that's between us.
So the first show is called The Origin Stories, and you came up with that name. What a great name. It is named like that because we will talk about a little bit about ourselves, because some people that know me are watching, some people that know you are watching, but most of
Exactly.
the people don't know the two of us very well. This is on my YouTube channel, so most of the people do know me because of that, but also because I'm an attention-seeking, or I love to post stuff about me on the social media. People always see me talking about this, about that, but you, I feel, Alek, like we know who you are, but you're more on the low-key side. There's more mystery about you, Alek, so I want to introduce you first. Like, who are you? Who did you grow up with? Where did you grow up with? Where are you from? And eventually, how did you get into the combat sports world, broski?
Awesome. Well, Max, number one, I'm like, thank you very much for having me, like, to be part of this podcast. It's, first of all, it's super cool. I've always wanted to get into the podcasting world. You know, but you meet a lot of people, you're like, yo, let's do something. And they're like, yeah, let's do it. And then nothing ever happens. Whereas literally, bro, you're like, let's do something. I'm like, let's do something. You're like, okay, next week we're doing it. And I was like, all right, dude. So we're gonna get it down. So yeah, so honestly, origin stories, yeah, that's I'm thinking about us like some superheroes now. So basically, man, I grew up born and bred in Montreal. You know, I grew up in La Salle. Actually, I was a hockey player myself growing up. I didn't do much combat sports, though. My dad was my hockey coach, so I was like, I always had high respect for coaches. You know what I mean? Like because my dad was my coach, like, all through my hockey career. You know, it wasn't an illustrious career, but you know what I mean? It was good nonetheless. And honestly, dude, just growing up, like, my dad introduced me to like things like I remember at one point it was like a day where he like introduced me to like Elvis, and then he's like, Elvis is the king, and then he introduced me to I don't know, Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali was the greatest boxer in the world, you know what I mean? And then he introduced me to Bruce Lee, and he's like, this guy was like the kung fu master, the greatest martial art of all time. And this is back in the 90s, before MMA was getting popularized and stuff like that, you know what I mean? And then from there, I just got enamored with, like, you know, Bruce Lee movies, kung fu movies, Jet Li, Keanu Reeves, all the action stars of, you know, our time. You know, I know we're the same age kind of thing, but it's pretty cool because we grew up, you know, completely different lives, separate lives, and here we are coming together at this point. But yeah, so I was always into that type of stuff, especially like anime. Dragon Ball Z was a huge influence on my life. You know what I mean? My friends and I used to just fight the crap out of each other, and like, you know, like nothing, no training, just like kids throwing hands and doing wild shit. And you know, but yeah, and then martial arts, like I've always been, a fan of watching, the fights. Bro, I'm not even gonna lie to you. The first time I saw MMA, it scared me. I think I was
For
like
sure.
16. I was 16 or 17. And like the first time I saw that, I'm like, yo, people do this? Like, you know what
Mhm.
I mean? And like, and
Mhm.
people make a living off of this. Like it
Yeah.
terrified me,
Yeah.
like, and it was so gory and like, just like, they still had, I think, head kicks, like soccer kicks back in the day. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? So things like that were pretty like serious to see. And,
Yes, sir.
you know what I mean? Um, but
Totally, man. I felt the same, honestly.
yeah, I can only like, right, seeing somebody get like kicked in the head and any point of the day, you know what I
Mhm.
mean, is pretty serious. But seeing them like soccer kicked in the head is a whole different story, you know what I
Very
mean?
intense.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I think around the ages of 29, I used to play in a rock and roll band, believe it or not, throughout my 20s.
I believe that more than the fact that you played hockey when you were young.
Er,
Like that fits more you than the hockey
Then
thing.
the hockey, yeah, I know. Like, honestly, I saw your face. I'm like, he doesn't even believe me. You know what I mean? So I was in a rock and roll band for a little while. And it was funny. I was talking to my old singer today. We were just talking about like old times and stuff like that. And so basically, I forgot where I was going with this point. Yeah. So after the band ended and stuff like that, COVID hit, and I lost a lot of like family members, not due to COVID or anything like that, just life itself. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Life happens. And I was just looking for something new, and
Mhm.
I was, for everybody from like Montreal, like I'm from the South, I'm from LaSalle, you know what I mean? And right next to us is Verdun. And I happened to stumble upon Angry Monkey one day, walked in the gym, was late for a class, got kicked out because I was late. He's like, buddy, class starts at 10 o'clock. It's 10:05. Get out of my gym. And I was like, okay. So then the next day I came back on time, and since then I've been like, I already MM martial arts, things like this is something I appreciated already, but it escalated everything. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Because now it's not just something I'm watching. It's something I'm trying to break down. It's something I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to like analyze. I'm trying to look at like, what exactly are they doing? Whose body types are like mine that I can replicate when I'm
Mhm.
trying to spar or do something like that. You know what I mean? And then from there and then on, like it's been a roller coaster since then. Since I joined that gym, I haven't been there very much in the recent years because I moved far away and I'm working quite a bit. But since then, it's just been nonstop, man. So
So you got some experience. You started fighting. You remember your very first sparring at Angry Monkey?
yeah, dude. I
What
do
was that
remember.
like?
First of all, I sparred with a guy named Dan. He was just like, hey, like, come spar after the class. And I was like,
Mhm.
okay. First of all, he's a very wet human being, right? He's one of those gym guys. They're just like, they walk into the gym and they just like the creature of the lagoon. They're all just like slimy off the bat. He's
Mhm.
one of those guys, right? So he was just like, let's spar. So I'm like, okay, all cocky and stuff. And then he's just hitting me with things that I see are coming, but I'm just gonna pop, pop. And then the first time he ripped me with a leg kick, bro, I snapped. I was like, oh yeah, like I got angry immediately. And then Dan, being the guy that Dan is, he clinched me,
Mm.
and like I said, the man's a walking like pool of water. So it was just, I was disgusted. It was a horrible time for me, but like,
Mhm.
you get that kind of like, I want to do it again. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yo, bro, what about you? How long have you been training for? Like, what
Wait.
exactly?
We're
Sorry.
not done with you, bro.
Oh, I'm sorry, bro. Sorry,
So
man.
yeah, that's how. First of all, Specogna, bro. Where's that from?
My father is Italian,
Okay, so you're
right?
Italian.
Yeah. My mother actually is West Indian. She's from Trinidad, like Trinidad and Tobago, the Caribbeans.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, my dad's like full on Italian, but he's like from the northern parts. So, uh, we're significantly taller than
Okay.
the southern parts of Italy. You know.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I remember the first time I saw you, I was not yet a commentator. Just went to Silvertooth because I was starting my
Podcast.
creating, yeah, no, more of like a content creator type stuff. And
Yeah.
I texted Phil from Silvertooth and I'm like, oh, I'd love to go do a vlog at your show. And then I don't know if you remember, but I was standing up just a side of the ring the whole way through, like maybe the 4 hours. I was just standing in front of the ring filming and doing stuff. And
Yeah.
you were there. I believe Nat was probably there too.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
did your thing. You announced. So that's the first time I saw you, and you were the announcer at Silvertooth. And
Yeah.
that's how I know you, and that's how many people knows you. It's You're the announcer for lots of shows
Yeah.
at kickboxing in Montreal. So how did that went through? Like, I'm pretty sure it was something to do with the fact that you were in a rock band before. Were you the singer in your rock band?
No, no, no. I definitely, dude. I cannot sing, which is
Okay.
funny enough that I'm on the microphone now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But how did that came about? Like the announcing gig.
So I don't know if you could see it properly, but my nose is just a little bit bent,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I I was getting ready for a smoker. You know, for those people who are listening who don't know, a smoker is an exhibition event. You know, there are no winners. A lot of people start them, and Justin holds a pretty good smoker show, like where a lot of people get their start. You know, like guys like Nick Leboeuf, I believe, got his
Mm-hmm.
start there,
Yeah.
and other guys. And Nick is like amazing. You know, what a great fighter. Shout out to Nick, Spider Boy, Leboeuf, and
We'll talk
so
about him a little bit more today
afterwards,
at the show. Yeah,
yes.
after. So yeah, those shows are called Rumble in the Jungle, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
Rumble in the Verdungle.
Yeah, in the
Yeah,
Verdungle.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
coach likes to put
yeah.
his own spin on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So, so I was getting ready to get into a fight, and I actually did a personal training that early in the morning with Hanuman's club coach Amélie Chartrand.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I did one with her, and then right away I scooted over to Angry Monkey, and I did my full training. I did a circuit. I did like a little circuit afterwards, like of pads with Justin, and then there's a gentleman at that gym by the name of Alex Bro. And Alex Bro has been boxing for quite some time. He's been at Angry Monkey for quite some years as well. And he's a heavier boy. He's a bigger guy. You know, he comes in about 190. You know what I mean? And I was about 170 at the time, maybe 175. And so he made me spar. So I was drained. Didn't even eat breakfast that morning. And if this is all happening, my class with Amélie was at like 6:30 a.m. and then it's 9, like that finished at like 7:38. And then I ran over, 9 o'clock started with Angry Monkey. So I was pretty wiped, you know what I mean? And dude, he broke my nose. We were sparring. He caught me with something. I didn't even feel it, right? Next round started. I'm like, you know, I'm feeling froggy, blah, blah, blah. He literally like touched my nose, like just touched it. And next thing I know, it was like Master Roshi and Dragon Ball Z, like, oh, with all the blood. And like, I was like delirious. I was like, oh, you know? And then I looked inside of the mirror and my nose was completely bent. It looked like I was trying to smell like all the way down there. You know what I mean? It was completely bent. I tried to be a hero and like, cause my wife, well, my now wife, my girlfriend at the time was there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just like, yo, I'll fix him myself, you know? And, you know, I tried and dude, it didn't help. It was excruciating. And, but luckily I went to the hospital. I knew a buddy who was working at the hospital at the time, got a doctor a quick signature, and I was actually in the surgery room within like an hour, not even, you know, after getting to the hospital. And for anybody who doesn't know, this is one of the procedures they do to fix a broken nose, is they put needles here, 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 and in the tip of your nose, and they give you something to bite down on, and they stick 2 giant rods right up your nose. And then the doctor just kind of like cracks it back in place, and you hear everything like echoing through your skull. It's pretty wild. And it wasn't painful, but it was extremely uncomfortable, my friend. It was extremely uncomfortable. So getting back, I broke my nose. And so instead of fighting, like I was about to go to the event, in some comfy clothes and whatever else. And Justin calls me. He goes, "Hey, buddy, you used to be in a band, right?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay, you have no problem being in front of people?" I'm like, "No, not at all." He goes, "Sounds good." He's like, "You're gonna be my announcer tonight." And I was like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, all right, see you there." Hangs up the
How many
phone.
time was it between you broke your nose and the
And
fight?
on the fight, it was I broke it at the mid end of August, and it was in September. I believe September like
Okay.
16th or something
Okay.
like that, right? And
But he
then
calls you the day before the event.
no, like an hour before the event.
Oh my god.
Yeah, like yeah, it was like it was like Batman, Gotham needs you. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like so he so that's literally like what happened. He just on the spot. And then a couple of weeks later, I was actually at I was getting a tattoo. I remember the day, and I get a call from Justin. I just think he wants to shoot the shit because Justin's like that. You know what I mean? And so he calls me and he's just like, "Hey, someone's gonna call you. It's a great opportunity. Say yes." Hangs up. I'm like, "Okay." And then I get a call and he's like, "Hey, my name is Philippe Allaire. I do I put on Silvertooth Promotions." He's like, "I saw you at Justin's smoker show." He's like, "I really like what you brought to the table." And mind you, like I showed up, like I got changed. I was in sweats and stuff like that. And and when I went to Justin's, I had put a blazer on, a nice shirt. You know what I mean? When I had hair, I had tied it back. I combed my beard. You know what I mean? And then I
But
went.
what was that like? The first rumble in the Verdungle. Did you know a little bit what to expect? How did you prepare yourself? What was it like?
Dude, I walked in and I'm there like like not knowing like what's gonna happen. And then Justin he's like, "Look, I'll do the first one, you take it from here." And then Justin grabs it, goes, "Ladies and gentlemen," and he does like a little like
Mm-hmm.
thing, and he just goes like, do something like that, and then and I was like, "Oh, okay. And then like so then he that's literally how it happened. And then
Mm-hmm.
from there, yeah,
They
so
gave you a card full of names, and you go
uh,
from there.
yeah, paper, and then he's like announced them. I accidentally, unprofessionally dropped a lot of like f-bombs here, f-bombs. Did you guys see that effing fight? Like I was doing that stuff, and then like he comes up, he's like, "Hey, buddy, there's kids, all right? Take it easy." And then even when I did Phil's first show or second show, the first couple of shows, because with Phil it was an opportunity. It wasn't like, "Hey, I'm gonna hire you, you're gonna be my guy." It's like, "Hey, let's see how this plays out." You know what I mean? And at the time, and for those who have been to the Silvertooth shows, my French is getting better, but at the time my French was atrocious. And Phil was just like, "Dude, you gotta pick up that. You gotta pick it up here. You were in Quebec. You gotta do something, So, so after like Phil gave me some chances, and then like I believe like the third show I did for Phil, he really was like, "Yo, you're my guy. You nailed it this time," And the first big show I did for Phil is, I believe, when I met you, or did I meet it on the second show I did for Phil? I'm not exactly sure.
I remember the first time I went to Silvertooth is who Anis Dehiles is?
Oh my God! Yes.
That's when
Anybody in the fight
yeah,
scene who doesn't know this guy's name,
yeah.
you're sleeping. Anyways,
That's when
continue.
he head kicked a dude at Silvertooth, and I believe that was his very first like kickboxing fight at that night at Silvertooth.
Did
It
he?
was like March 2021, I want to say.
Yeah. It was early on. It was
Yeah.
early on in the year, from what I remember. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But dude, those early Silvertooth shows, I saw some crazy knockouts. I believe maybe it was Anis had a knockout. I'm not sure, but I did see somebody from Simon, Quebec, get laced across the face, and dude, arms drop, go to sleep. And then Greg Belland
Yeah.
from Apex.
Yeah.
I've seen him multiple times, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I think multiple knockouts. You know what I mean? Always straight down the pipe too. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Pure power, pure power. So, and yeah, that's basically like how I got into it. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? That's my radioactive spider.
Yeah.
Like
So
my Spider-Man.
yeah, you're like into a character when you go do the shows and stuff like that. Are you like a little bit of what we see in the ring outside? Or are you like this like loud talking like gentleman with that beautiful voice who loves to like put on a show? Or you're more like on the quiet side on the
Well,
daily
no,
basis?
you know what? That's very funny you say that. I don't think a very nice voice is how most people would put it that I work with, or that my wife would put it, or that my mother or my father would put it.
Mm-hmm.
They say I'm loud, but they'll never say it's nice to hear me that loud. You know what I mean? They're usually like, "Hey, shut up." You know what I mean? um, the thing is also from being in a band, brother, like I got like a little bit of partial deafness in one
Mm-hmm.
ear. Like it's not much. It just feels like the volume just on one side, you know what I mean? Just a little bit muted on one side.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but honestly, like it's a blessing that I came into ring announcing because it fits my my loudness
Mm-hmm.
pretty well. You know what I mean?
Well, man, like I said, you're one of the best in the country. That's for sure. I don't know if you know who Eric Emar is.
Oh my god, yeah, he does Fight Quest, he does
Yeah.
Samurai, he
Yeah.
does a lot of boxing events too. Dude,
Yeah.
he's got such a voice when he bark, he's a barker, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? You know? Like and he's got like he's got a big voice. I really like his voice.
Oh yeah,
Really.
that's the OG. But
Yeah,
like you're number two for sure in the country, and you're on
I
the
appreciate that.
kickboxing scene. You're number one, my G. And
I appreciate that, brother. I
I
appreciate that.
I love to hear that story. And of course, we're gonna learn more. I want to learn more about when you fought actually, because now we know when you didn't fight. But
Yeah.
I want
Yeah.
I want to know that time you fought, and like more of like the training side, and how also the psychologic side of fighting. Some you said like when you saw MMA at first, it was like you found it very intense, and you got scared and stuff, and it was the same
Yeah.
for me, honestly. But
Mhm.
came a point in our life, like when we grew up and we were depressed a little bit, and you see fighting and violence on a different side. I feel
Yeah.
like, well, that's what happened with me,
Yeah.
because I grew up doing karate on the south shore of Montreal.
Okay.
I actually was the karateka of the year in 1996
No way.
in
That's
my own
sick.
little town of Saint
Yeah.
Constant.
Hey, dude, I'm
But
not far off. I'm in Chats right now.
yeah, exactly. No, we're
So,
just the other side of the bridge.
yeah.
And well, now you're in Châteauguay, you said?
Yeah, now I'm living in Chattagat, yeah.
Yeah, that's right next to Saint Constant. But even when you
Bro,
were
right
in
there.
Ville La Salle, that's just the Pont Mercier, and then
Yeah, exactly.
we were basically neighbors for our whole life.
The whole time. Yeah, the whole time, right?
But yeah, Saint Constant is right next to Kanawaki too, so I
Yeah.
like always knew like stuff about that, but they never like really teach us what Kanawaki is. And I grew up like Saint Constant is literally the town next to Kanawaki, but we didn't
Yeah.
know much about them. Like we just know they were Mohawks and like they were natives, but like nobody talked about them. It was like
No.
a mystery. But I knew fights were going down there.
Oh, since
And
back in the day too?
yeah, the very first pro MMA show in Canada was in Kanawaki.
No way.
Yeah,
Historical, man.
in the late 90s, I want to say.
Okay.
It was still illegal everywhere, and it was called the IFL, I believe, the International Fight League, and it was the like it was almost nose to nose with the UFC.
At
It
the
was
time, yeah.
yeah, and they came to
Amazing.
Kanawaki to do a show. And yeah, so there's a lot of history of the fighting game at
So whatever
Kanawaki.
happened to IFL? You know what I mean?
I have no idea.
It just fizzled out. Nothing
Oh
happened.
yeah, and it has been fizzled out for a while.
Yeah,
now.
because bro, I was gonna say like you don't hear
Yeah.
nothing about that. You
No,
know?
maybe I think they did like five to 10 shows, maybe max.
Okay.
Not much. And also, Georges Saint Pierre grew up near where I'm from. I believe he's from Saint Isidore,
Yeah.
which is like 5 minutes away of Saint Constant. And I did karate where he was teaching too.
No
So
way.
I've known Georges Saint Pierre for it's called KES. It
Okay.
was called KES with Coach Sensei Stéphane Dubé. The OGs of the fighting scene will know him. He did like MMA in the UCC and early TKO days.
The name is very familiar.
Yeah, Stéphane Dubé. he was my sensei, and Georges was also teaching at this school. So I knew who Georges Saint Pierre was like a long time ago. When I was like 6, 7 years old, I've met Georges, but I didn't really know who he was, you know.
Mhm.
And then at around like 12 years old, I stepped away from karate, and I did soccer instead. And I love
Okay.
soccer. I played high level soccer, so I still kicked a lot, but it
Yeah,
was
the
a
different kind of kicks.
different sport. And then I played, and then 18 years old, I started playing high level soccer again, and we
Okay.
got into fights all the time. We just fought. Like it was no longer soccer. The second there was a little tackle, or the game got a little like
Scrap would break
yeah,
out.
the old team will find the other team. So like the parents wouldn't come and see us anymore. They're like, you guys are just fighting.
You're just animals, bro.
Yeah.
But you know,
So
I love it. I love it. Even I had a hockey team, like I was on different hockey teams, and when we had a bad team, bro, we'd just be like, you know what, just scrap. You know, we're here to scrap. That's it. You know, so
yeah, for
that's
sure.
awesome.
So we started watching the UFC, my friends and I, because we were getting like curious about fighting, and we see, oh, there's this sports called MMA. And then that's at the time Georges Saint Pierre was at its peak. It's like
Okay.
2008,
Oh, so you
2009.
caught in like a very good era of
Yeah,
MMA,
absolutely. But we
right?
would we would just watch GSP fights.
Of
So
course.
every time he was on a card, we would order the pay-per-view, and we would like drink beers with the boys,
Yeah,
and we
yeah.
would absolutely not watch every single fight on the card, but when Georges Saint Pierre
It
fought.
was fighting. That's
Yeah,
hilarious. But
we
didn't he win
didn't
the
know
belt
like
in that
what the
year?
sport was. Sorry about that.
I'm sorry. Didn't he win the belt like around
Yeah,
2018, 2000? Yeah. So because that's like the time to watch it. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
that's a long time ago, so I don't remember a lot of the things, but I know we didn't watch any single fight but GSP fighting, and we didn't know at all what the fight was, like what
Yeah.
MMA was. We're just like, oh, this guy is from our, literally is from our town, and he's fighting on the biggest stage, so we will cheer for him, but we didn't know at all what it was. And then, so I graduate from secondaire 5. I go to
Yeah.
cégep, and then I start seeing like fights on in bars on the TVs, and just like when you told that you got scared, I know exactly the feeling you felt, because I looked at that, and at first GSP was fun. Just my friend and I were like, yeah, go GSP. But
Yeah.
once
Yeah.
GSP was not fighting anymore, and it's just like two guys kicking the shit out of each other, I felt like discomfort in my body. I was
Yes.
like, I
Yeah.
cannot believe they are doing that to themselves. Like,
It's
that's
crazy.
wrong. They should not do that. It hurts my soul right now.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I got away from that. I don't want to watch that
Yeah. Like
anymore.
this is somebody's baby. You know.
Yeah, exactly. So
It's
GSP
crazy.
kind of retired the first time. I think it's 2013. So I stopped watching in like 2014.
Mhm.
And just like you, COVID hits. There's nothing else going on. I've always been a huge sports fan. I wanted to be a sports commentator, sports broadcaster, be a sports analyst for a long time. But whether it was hockey, soccer, baseball, name it, but never martial arts.
Yeah. Right.
And COVID hits, everything is like there's nothing happening anymore. And then I'm just at home, and I see a UFC, because the UFC was the first sports that started during the pandemic. And I'm like, oh, I know, I remember that. That's GSP.
Kudos to Dana for that one, huh?
Yeah, and that's really what blew the shit up. Now it's the UFC is like very, very big, and
Huge,
that's
man.
a
Huge.
part because of that.
Yeah.
And then, funny enough, so I start watching the cards, and I think it's cool. I don't have that like discomfort anymore. I'm like, well, I grown up, and I know they're all grown up, and they
Yeah.
agreed to be in the cage, and like they're trained martial artists. It's not just two bum from the street fighting.
Yeah. Super athletes, you know?
Yeah, and funny enough, Olivio Mercier, it was one of my neighbors, like in the apartment building. So I
That's
just
hilarious.
I just see this weird guy. He has like, one of these skateboards. There's just a wheel in the middle of the board. It
Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
looks
Yeah.
like they're flying.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Well, I
do.
don't know if you know Ali a little bit, but he's a character. Like he's a weird specimen.
Okay.
So I just see him in the back alley, like on his weird skateboard, and I look at him, and I'm like, I know who this guy is. And he was still fighting in the UFC at this
At the
time.
time, yeah.
He fought his last fight, but it was like 3 months after he fought, I think Gilbert Burns was his last
Yeah, I was
UFC
about
fight.
to say that's it. That I remember that being his last fight in the
So I'm
UFC.
like, I know who this guy is. So I started my YouTube channel during the pandemic because I'm like, there's nothing to do. I can't work, So that's when I will do stuff. You know, when you said like, it's funny because you always want to do stuff with people, but it never ends up like happening.
No, yeah,
Well,
exactly.
that's the day I started doing stuff because I was like that too before. Oh yeah, we'll do this, we'll do that, but never do it. But when
Yeah,
the pandemic hits, I'm like, I start the YouTube channel. I don't give a shit if people like are looking at me weird or I don't care anymore.
well,
I'm
kudos
doing
to you,
this
man.
this sports thing that I always wanted to do. I'm doing it right now.
Yeah,
So I started doing my YouTube channel and I started to do interviews with hockey players that I knew from my neighborhood and stuff like that. And I'm like, hey, Olivia, I wanna interview this guy. I started watching MMA and I think it's cool. And I think this guy is pretty good. So
yeah,
I
yeah, pretty good, huh?
yeah,
Yeah, bro.
I go see him in the alley and I'm like, hey dude, I'm Max. I would love to interview you. Are you down? And he's like, yeah, whatever. Super chill. He's like, yeah. So we do the interview in my car because we couldn't do it anywhere else because
Yeah,
everything is closed and like I don't like I wouldn't invite him into my apartment because that's like, hey, I just met you. You want to come in my
come over.
apartment?
Yeah, yeah, like a real Jeffrey Dahmer,
Yeah, exactly.
huh?
So we do the interview in my car, and I'm like, oh, this guy is pretty cool. And then he starts teaching. That was like the middle of the summer 2020, so nothing is happening. Gyms are closed.
Yeah,
No UFC, no nothing, because he got released from the UFC. But I don't really know at this point. And he's in discussion with the PFL, but I don't know what PFL. Nobody knew what PFL
no,
was at that
no
time.
one, no one.
So he starts doing training in Parc La Fontaine, like striking class. He's like, just on Instagram, he does story and he's like, oh, I'll start teaching striking class in Parc La Fontaine. Whoever wants to come, come. But the last time I threw a punch was when I was 12 years old at karate or like on the
Yeah,
soccer field, but that was not throwing punch.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I go to his first striking class in the park, but I'm scared. I'm like, man, I don't know how to fight. This guy is a fucking MMA fighter. He's gonna think I'm stupid, blah blah blah. So I just look at the class from like I'm hidden behind the tree, and I look at the class and I'm like,
Yeah.
I think I can do it. So the next time I go do his class, and it's super fun. And I do like 12 of that. And Oli is like, he's really cool. He's one of my friend, and it's because of him that I am at this like point of my career in the martial arts. So I will always be thankful for him. So then I do this interview with him, and then blah blah blah. I do stuff, and I start like covering the UFC and MMA. And there's this guy Maxime Vanout, who's a sports journalist, and he worked at the radio 91.9 Sports. It's like the biggest French sports radio in Montreal.
Mhm.
And he sees me like on Instagram and on Twitter, and he's like, hey Max, you want to come talk about the UFC on my radio show?
That's awesome.
That's
That's
the very
awesome.
first time like I had a mic, and I was like Maxime Karabine, the UFC commentator.
Yeah.
UFC analyst. And as much as I'm thankful for Olivia, I'll always be thankful for Maxime Vanout, who invited me on his radio show.
Well, dude,
And
that's
that just blew
honestly.
up from there.
Yeah, no, sorry to interrupt you. I was gonna say,
Go
like,
ahead.
for somebody, we don't live in a generation where people give an olive branch very often, you know what I mean? For him to literally reach out and be like, hey dude, I see what you're doing, like come
Mhm.
join me and like see how it's done, like, on a different level or on a different stage type of thing. It's honestly, it's super cool. What a great person
Man,
for that.
you're so right. And he's our age too. So sometimes there's a little bit of like a competition, between us. I don't want him to take my place, but he didn't care. He's like, come on my show. I think
Yeah.
you're funny and I think you're doing good. And man, that's so wild because that's like 1 week or maybe 2 weeks after my grandfather passed.
Oh,
And
no,
like the
sorry.
last time I talked with my grandfather on the phone before he died, it was like, oh yeah, I'm starting this YouTube channel and I want to be like a sports commentator and stuff and blah blah blah. And then he passed. And the week later, I'm at my grandparents' house with my grandmother who just lost his husband, and I'm taking care of her and stuff. And he calls me and he's like, "You want to come on my radio show tomorrow?" So it's like it was. Oh yeah,
Bro.
I'm telling you right now, and I have chills. Like it
Bro, I'm
was.
getting chills, man.
Yeah.
I have a similar story for another time, but not like opportunity wise, but like for like I guess in the
Go
same
ahead,
year
bro. Yeah.
I lost my grandmother in the same year, and it wasn't COVID or anything like that, but like at the time she was like slowly decaying, slowly going, and um, I had taken a job I usually work electrician. I was an electrician prior to COVID hitting, and so I took a job at the hospital because there was no work at the time, and I was just like cleaning up stuff, whatever. And then one day my grandmother gets rushed to the hospital, and I'm like, where the hospital? She's in my hospital. Okay, where is she? Okay, she's in the emergency room. No family can go visit her because it's COVID. It's like the thick of COVID, you know what I mean? It was July, of 2020. So it was that, the thick of it. And so that day I'm like, yo, I'm gonna go to work. I'm gonna like just do what I have to do, and then just go chill with my grandmother while she's in the hospital, like alone, you know what I mean? And instead of having to do that, I walk in and like, okay, today you're working in the emergency. And basically I was working in her department, like where she was being held, and no family or no one could go see her. So I was able to go bring her stuff and bring her clothes and stuff like that. And then I was there with her that night. She got released, went home, and passed away. So like, I mean, it's just we both lost like a grandparent in that same I guess time frame, same year type of thing, and then it propelled us to better things.
100%, man. And I know, don't want to be too deep or stuff, but they're both watching us and proud of what we're doing right now.
Yeah, exactly, man. Especially my grandmother. She was a wicked woman, bro. She loved a good joke, you know what I mean? And she loved it that I was a loud, goofy guy, you know what I mean, type of thing. So and I'm sure your grandfather, like and especially the fact that you had that conversation with him prior to that happening. That's the last conversation you had, and then while you're with your grandmother, he's just like, yo, I'm gonna throw him a bone, you know what I mean? And boom, you got that call. That's bro, poetry, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I will cherish this, even though it sucks losing someone. It's gonna happen. That's life. And just the fact for it, like, to go like that, it's amazing. So yeah, I do this thing on the radio, and then they like it, and then I do more and more shows on the radio, and eventually Samurai MMA came about, like November 2021. And they needed a commentator, and they asked me, and man, I start doing commentating the stuff
so
that
cool. It's so cool. Like my wife and I watched Samurai on the UFC Fight Pass. I'm like, we gotta make sure we're watching it in French. And it kind of reminds me of watching hockey, like as a kid. You know what I mean? Like on RDS, because even though I'm English, I can't watch hockey in English. It has to be in French. You know what I mean? So it reminded me like the same way, and I was like, oh yeah,
it brings you back.
Right, exactly.
And then of course I go do the Silvertooth vlog, and then that's when I met you. And then Phil, what a gem, this guy. It's amazing. Like, I could imagine when he called you to give you your first chance, and like, because Phil is very intimidating, but like very like super nice and kind-hearted at the same time.
Very, yeah.
So it was. You're just like, okay, who's this guy who fought Muay Thai in Thailand? He's like, he has scars all over his face.
He's the silver tooth, you know.
Especially what I mean? You're quite tall, and he's quite small. So you're like, I don't know if I can hang around this guy. Is he gonna kill me or whatever?
No, dude, Phil comes with that energy though. You know what I mean? Phil's like, he has that smooth way of talking, you know what I mean? Especially when you get to know him, he's very like, and then like how things should go. And he's very sweet. But the first time I did meet him, I was just like hi, sir. Nice to meet you. Thank you for the opportunity. You know what I mean? Just like, man, like, don't kick me in the face. You know what I mean? Type of thing, But Phil, like Phil's been doing this for like 10 years now. Like over 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a little bit more than 10 now.
All right. So, and like, I'm just grateful to be a part of like I feel like both of us, especially the fact, like, like my first shows were also your first like filming episodes and stuff like that, which were really cool, by the way. You got some awesome footage, crazy things about the fight. I remember there's one video you ended and I'm shaking the ropes like an animal, and like because I can't help myself too. I'm a fan, right? Like like start. I guess we're gonna start getting into like
Absolutely. We're done talking about ourselves now.
yeah, you know what I mean. But
But that was the origin stories for you guys. Now, obviously, we'll talk about Silvertooth more. Silvertooth Promotion, owned by Philippe Allaire, which is one of the very few Québécois who fought Muay Thai pro in Thailand against
yeah,
like absolute killers. You're the announcer. I'm the commentator.
yeah,
Fight 1-4. We're here to cover, especially this kickboxing amateur scene on Montreal because we love it so much. Like you
dude.
say, we're
Yeah,
both fans. We're both striking enthusiasts. We love the beauty of the art of the eight limbs and like just kickboxing itself. It's so pure. It's amazing. And we
it
just
is.
had a show like 2 weeks ago, and I wanted you to tell me a little bit more about the tournament that went down, the 147 tournament, and
Dude.
especially I want you to tell me how you felt because you did the and at this point, what was it like? Your 15 show with Silvertooth
Yeah, because it's been
around that.
about 3 years. I've been with Phil, and he basically excuse me, he basically does, I think, three. Originally it was three, then I think four for the last couple of years, and then this year it's been five. So
Yeah,
about you're about that about excuse me, 12,
10,
12
12.
to
Yeah,
10, 12, 15 shows. Um,
but it probably was the first time you announced the tournament the way you did two
yes,
Saturdays ago. That was
yeah,
something to behold. Honestly, when you called the four fighters of the tournament to be in the ring at the same time with you, how was
so
that
cool.
like?
So cool. Well, first, like, because I did, there's another one, Ballistic Limbs,
Yeah, yeah,
another
yeah.
fight, a fight league called Ballistic Limbs, where they
Mm-hmm.
did a 4-man tournament. But it was like, okay, he's fighting him, he's fighting him. I just announced the fights.
Mm-hmm.
But like when Phil told me, he's like, yo, okay, so the guys, they're gonna come, you know, he's like, you're gonna have a bucket, they're gonna take the balls out of the bucket, and then you make them reveal it. And I was telling Phil, I'm like, yo, we're gonna make the crowd make them reveal it. You know what I mean? Like get the crowd to count in, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, when he told me the concept, I was blown away. I'm like, this is sick. Like, cause it's, you know, being a big fan of anime, you know, you like that
Mm-hmm.
type of stuff. But like even in the old Dragon Ball tournaments, even in shows like Baki, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's always that surprise element of reach inside, grab the
yeah,
ball, who's got the matching number,
yeah,
matching
yeah, yeah.
color, matching whatever. And so to announce that, first of all, to have them all in the ring and like they
The
no one told me,
energy, man. Oh,
bro, and nobody rehearsed it, huh? They went bop, 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 bop. Everybody went in their
wow.
own corners.
Yeah,
I was like, this is fucking sick.
yeah.
And then I gave it to them. I'm like, yo, don't reveal it, you know, to the ending. Don't
Mm-hmm.
reveal it to the ending. And then they all held it up. And then when we count 3, 2, 1, it was perfect because David Carpel and Jerome Thériault were right across from each other. And they fought. And then Nathan Morin and Usama Mouafik were
Mm-hmm.
right across from each other. So and they were fighting. So it made a perfect like, you know, and when the crowd saw they were, you know, so it was like I'm that's the worst part too, because when I get too excited, I can't control my French.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, all right. You know what I mean? So
Man, that was so sick. Just like you call the anime stuff, and I really felt like I was in Japan for a moment because the Japanese they always do stuff like weird stuff, and I was
so
this
cool.
was something different happening, and we
Yeah.
all could feel it. Like the Bain Mathieu, you, me, I'm sure Phil was like, "What the fuck is that?"
Yeah,
The
yeah.
fighters, like we all like felt so amazed by what we see, and
Yeah.
it was not that big of like there was no like confidence. It was just like you four balls and like okay, you fight you, but just the vibe that was there, like it was amazing, and I want to do that again, man, for
Oh,
sure.
dude, I told Phil, man, I'm like, I love this. Like, I wish we could have a card where everyone is the same weight. I know
Hmm.
it's a dream little card of mine where
Yeah,
everyone is the same weight, say, and then they have literally like a it's like a 12-man tournament, 3 different steps, and then we
man.
decide who's the champion of the champions
Yeah,
of that weight division at the end of the night or whatever.
maybe
Make
we
them
could do like all like Silvertooth versus like FTC or stuff like that. Like who's the
God.
best? Like because that could happen, honestly, especially at the 147 where there's so many good fighters in the A class. Man, that idea is amazing, Alec.
Yeah, I think that would be that would be so cool. And shout out to FTC. They had a huge event over the weekend. Really, really cool stuff. I wasn't able to attend, but I did see some live streams and stuff like that of
Mm-hmm.
little clips of the fight. That is one show I'm not a part of, but
Mm-hmm.
I think it's one of the coolest shows that they have going on in Montreal. You know what I mean? It's
They
really, really awesome. But that the tournament style fights it's something that's made an appearance this year, and I gotta say personally, I'm a fan. You know what I
Oh
mean?
man. And
It's so
did
cool.
you expect that David would win the whole thing?
You know what? I had an inkling of like an idea that he did, and I even told Eric, I'm like, David seems like really like in the focus. Like I don't know if like I was watching him fight and his first fight against Jerome Thériault, like you see him putting on the pressure, and then like they're coming out. It was the in between the rounds that really stood out for me, especially like because you would see Jerome, he's getting up and he's like, he's. I'm not saying that he was gassed, like, but I
No.
can see that he was having like a
He
little bit
would
of a
say
hard.
that himself. Jerome would tell you that he was
He
gas.
was
So
gassed, right? So,
yeah.
and then you just see David come out, and
Mm-hmm.
he's in incredible shape, and he's just standing there like a titan. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like these things, these moments, I find, it's not necessarily the fight that is going on inside of the ring. Sometimes it's little moments that you catch in the in between rounds, or the things that you can hear the coach whispering to him, or and I'm fortunate enough to be by the
Mm-hmm.
ring, so sometimes I can hear, hey, get your shit together, like
Mm-hmm.
there's some little coaching points. And but I I I did see David winning, but I also saw everybody else winning.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
But you were not surprised that David came up
Okay.
on top.
No, 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 no. And
Because I can say I was,
yeah,
honestly. Because my take before the tournament was like, okay, we have Jerome, who's a great technical Muay Thai fighter
amazing.
from a great
Yeah.
school. We have Usama Muafik, who's a maniac, complete.
Dude, and I expected David and Usama in the finals. No, not to talk down about anybody. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But it's just I believe maybe you had the same ideas as well.
No, me, I thought it would be Jerome and Usama.
Oh
It was
yeah.
before knowing like who versus who. My
Mhm.
first thought was like I think like the best on like skills and stuff like that. I think Jerome against Usama were the two best fighters that night, and funny enough, they were the two eliminated in the first round. So that just
Yeah,
shows you like how good they all are, and like you can never expect stuff, especially in a tournament kind of environment.
exactly. But also without revealing any information, because the information belongs within the leagues, the WKFQ and everything like that, the World Kickboxing Federation Quebec, who do a spectacular job, by the way, of putting on sanctioning and taking care of all the fighters and stuff like that, with regards to the rules, regulations, and safety. Um, like it was very, very close, but the point deduction was a very, very big factor in that.
Absolutely. Yeah,
You know what I mean?
everybody who watched the fight knows that. And I don't know if you rewatched the broadcast, but Charles Jourdain was completely shocked that Usama
He
didn't
was,
go through.
yeah. He was.
But yet, so, and I'm like, so I'm like, Jerome is technical, Usama is a complete maniac.
Yeah.
Nathan is like a showman, just like his
His name. Yeah,
nickname.
exactly.
He's like, this guy is crazy. Will just go forward, even though he eats so many punches and kicks. It's like
Yeah.
Nathan Morin is one hell of a fighter. And
Yeah.
then we have David Carpel, who was the far less experienced guy. Like this guy started
Yeah.
kickboxing like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But I believed he was the better athlete. Like he's the most in shape of the four. And I knew based on cardio and like athleticism, he was
Yeah.
on top,
Hmm.
which is why I'm not surprised he won. But I'm like, technically, he started fighting 2 years ago, and Jerome maybe
Crazy.
4 years ago, Usama maybe a little more, and
Mhm.
Nathan has been fighting since he's 2 years old, probably.
Yeah, since he's a kid. Well,
Yeah.
his father Dominic, I believe he's a karate sensei as well, right?
Yeah.
He
Oh
runs in
man.
the, runs in the
I don't know
family, right?
if you know who Sifu Pat Marcel is. He's the coach at
Mhm.
Pat Node martial arts in Gatineau.
Okay, Kevin Patnaud, any relation or
No, no,
no?
no. But
Okay.
Sifu Pat is like he's a crazy MFer, and him and Dominique Morin, like 25 years ago, were like ruling the Quebec scene. They were like
Okay.
the madmans on the scene. So Dominique was. So I'm like the apple doesn't fall
Well,
far from the tree,
that's it. You got it.
and Nathan is crazy as well. But
Yeah.
Nathan goes through a war with Usama, and it's almost a coin flip to know who's between the both of them is going to the final.
Wild.
Comes
Yeah.
out, it's Nathan. But
Yes.
David, like you said, was still fresh. David could have fought like 3 more times that
Yeah.
evening.
He
So
really could have.
this fight, the final was just David was very in shape, and Nathan gave everything he could. He was in the fight from
Yeah.
round 1 to round 3, but it was David's moment last 2 Saturdays ago, and that was
Yeah.
amazing. And this guy started kickboxing two years ago, and now he's one of the best 147 in the
In
province,
province.
which is
Yeah.
like one
It's
hell of a
huge.
division.
It's huge. Like a lot of the guys who come from karate in this province are killing it. You know what I mean? And I know karate gets a bad rap. A lot of people like to say, karate, like but dude, you got to give it up to like Nathan Morin.
Mhm.
Anis was a karate guy, if I
Yeah.
believe. If
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
right,
yeah.
if I'm wrong, correct me. And even getting on to big knockout man at the Madison Square Garden,
Oh my
Samuel
god.
Bunch. He was a karate guy as well. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Nick
um,
Leboeuf.
Nick Leboeuf, yeah, exactly, yeah. So see, there you go. Like, there's a ton of them. There's a ton of them. So it's a pretty good base. You know what I mean?
For
Reg-
kickboxing, it's pretty good.
right? So like, regardless of what people want to say, I know I know a lot of kickboxers who have trouble dealing with side kicks too. You know what I mean? So and karate, like they hand out sidekicks, like you know what I mean,
Mhm.
like DVDs in cereal boxes in the 90s. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
so
Talking about Nick Leboeuf, that's a good segue. Just to touch a little bit on a FTC 6 who went down this past Saturday
yeah,
at Salle Ludger Duvernay, downtown Montreal. One hell of a show, like you said.
hmm
The 3 top fights were all for belts. You remember Brian Yongo? He,
yes,
he fought
this summer at Silvertooth.
Benito at in Oka.
Yeah,
He finished
yeah,
Benito, I think, in the second round.
yeah.
It
I
was
believe it
a
was Benito's first amateur
A
loss.
class.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. No, it
oh,
was not his first amateur fight at Benito.
no, amateur loss. Sorry.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, yeah.
Before
Sorry,
that, I have
I
not seen
misheard that.
unless he did at another
No,
show,
you're
but
right.
I have not seen Benito lose.
No, he
Apart
was 8-0-1. He drew Ziad Akar at Silvertooth in last November, but then he was undefeated, and then he faced Brian Yongo in Oka.
and that's when he
Brian Yongo is a killer. He won the belt. I believe it's
insane.
the 172 or 176 belt
Yeah, killer,
FTC. He
killer.
fought KES Said from Victory. I believe you know who that guy is because he fought at
Um,
Ballistic.
I believe so. I
Yeah,
believe so.
great kickboxer. Kaid beat Omar Karaki like some time ago.
Oh, really?
So Brian Yongo faced him at FTC and he finished him in the second round. So Brian Yongo is taking over the Quebec scene at the moment.
Awesome.
Then co-main event, we have the man, the Spider Boy, Nick Leboeuf. No, that's the main event.
That was
Co-main
the
event.
yeah, that was with Mayana.
Meana, what a killer that guy is. Finishes
He's
Nick in the first or second round. Meana is so good, man.
not only I've met him before. I've seen him in the interviews and stuff like that. I follow him on in the social media, the Instagram, whatever else. He's not only just like a great fighter, he's actually a great personality. Like the guy can do my job. You know what I mean? He's got like good like
Yeah.
energy about him and stuff like that. The first time I saw him was at a Silvertooth, and he was like he was a bad man. And then I know after that he went on to beat Ravichandran at Fight Quest, and he's just been on a tear since. He's just been on a tear since. So yeah.
So yeah, he defended his belt I don't want to say quite easily because it's never easy, but like he dispatched Nick Leboeuf like Nick Leboeuf was a beginner, and we both know he
Mm,
is not.
yeah, he's not.
So
Yeah,
Meana is very, very good. Defended his belt. Keep an eye on that guy for sure. But the
100.
co-main event was amazing. Matson
Dude,
Leon defeated Omar Karaki.
I watched the whole fight. That one I caught the whole one.
Bro, that was crazy, man. And I
Uh,
love both guys, but
you
I'm
know
more
what?
familiar with Matson. Matson, I was very happy for the guy.
I was ecstatic for Matson because I know he's had multiple fights against Omar. He's even fought him in Silvertooth, and
Mm-hmm.
I think the first one was close, but Omar took it. The second one was extremely close, and people said it could have gone either or. It could have even been a draw. From how I remember the crowd coming to talk to me, and people at the WKFQ being like, "Oh, it was really close," like I know it was a very close. So I'm really happy he got like his redemption win. You know what I mean? Finally against, because Omar took the second fight as well. Excuse me, I didn't elaborate on that,
Mm-hmm.
but and I love Omar. My son does Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and we train with Omar sometimes. You know what I mean? He shows me tricks. My son could throw a mean armbar right now because of Omar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Matson's just like a boy. You know what I mean? Every time I see him, he's so sweet, so nice. You know what I mean? And you feel the genuineness from him. But both guys, like you said, it's what I messaged them both. I said I hate this fight because I like you guys both so
Yeah.
much. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? And but Matson, I don't know, like from the get-go, this guy came out with like
Mm-hmm.
volume
Yeah.
and just like he was like relentless. He was constantly after Omar. And Omar's no slack, and Omar was
Mm-hmm.
landing great combos,
Yeah.
like pop, 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 head kick, and he was
Mm-hmm.
landing it,
Yeah.
like it was absolutely back and forth. So
Yeah.
wild, dude. So wild. So
Yeah, but
wild.
that was Matson's night, and
Yeah.
man, but Omar, man, this guy is crazy too because that was a 147 title fight, and this guy is already like the 156 champ at FTC,
Yeah,
and for
exactly.
this guy to weigh in at 147, he
He had to go
dedicated
down.
himself for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Didn't eat stuff. If you follow Omar, which you
Dude, he
should
eats. This
on
guy eats.
Instagram, he's one hell of a character. So for
Yeah.
him to deplete himself as much as he did to try and go get that belt, that was something like he's a champ.
Yeah.
He will always be a champ, and he's still the champ at 156.
Yeah.
But that night belonged to Matson, and I could not have
100%.
been more happy. And what a fight they delivered
Dude,
us.
they always deliver, those guys, man. They always deliver.
Yeah, and the trilogy is done now. There's no more Omar versus Matson, so you can be safe for
Yeah.
that, Alek.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Like,
so to finish this first episode of the Fight 1-4, you told me at the beginning I wanted to touch a little bit on Alex Poitin Pereira and the fight he had against Khalil Roundtree this past weekend. It was pure violence. It was so beautiful to see Alex get rid of Khalil in the fourth round. That was amazing. But you tell me there's a little story behind why you didn't get to see the fight.
bro, the little story is called Mario Bautista. And
Okay.
and it was the fight with Aldo. Like, I
uh,
love Jose Aldo, but him keeping him up on the cage, bro. Okay, so I was babysitting my 3 nephews,
mhm.
and my son was there. So it was just like I was around boys all weekend, right? So I had to come back home at night to take care of some stuff. So I'm sitting there on the couch, and I'm like, yo, he's hugging him against the cage, and I'm watching it like this the whole time. And then Juliana Pena came out, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch this for a bit. And I didn't make it, bro. I didn't make
Yeah,
it,
I know.
and
I
I've been catching
understand.
highlights back and forth. All I know is, like, from what I'm seeing, it was wild. It was
Yeah.
wild. And both men had their moments. Like, Khalil is
Hmm.
like no pushover dog. You know
By
what I
far
mean?
his best performance in the UFC so far, like Khalil. And he like he I don't know, he got Alex Pereira to take the beast out of him. Like he
Yeah.
made Alex Pereira go wild. Like
Switch.
we
Switch.
rarely see this Alex Poitin because he always just clips people and it's
It's
finished.
done.
But
Yeah.
now he had to like dig deep, and we saw like the animal inside of Alex Poitin, and that's because of Khalil Roundtree. So
Well,
man.
bro, you know what? I woke up at like I opened my eyes and I just see Alex walking off and he had blood like all I think his leg was drenched in blood and he had blood all over his hands. And he's like,
Mhm.
and he's walking out of the cage and I'm just there like, you know what I mean? But
I've been there before. For sure.
right.
Yeah.
And but the thing is, like a lot of people need to realize too, is that apart from Izzy and Jan Blakovic, no one else has lasted around with him. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? He's just serving guys like naps.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? He's just
Yeah.
serving naps. That's all he's doing. You know, he's like one for you, like Oprah, one for you, one for you, one for you. Everybody goes to sleep. You know, so, so it was
Yeah, he's a wild man for
he's,
sure.
he's absolutely amazing. I'm at a loss for words every time he fights. You know, like because he's perfect. And he shaves his head right before his fight, so I can relate. You know what I mean?
He's a kickboxer too. Like
Yeah, you know.
there's never a boring fight when Alex Pereira is there. So that
That's it.
was Fight 1-4, first episode, the origin stories with Max Karabine and Alex Specogna. We touched a little bit on our own life, who Alek is, who I am, how we got into becoming the best duo of announcer and commentator. And then we touched a little bit on Silvertooth tournament. What a sight that was. We won
Yeah,
that again. Shout out Phil from Silvertooth. FTC 6 was something to behold too. We will be
amazing.
back every Tuesday, 7 p.m. There's a great show, Empire Fight League, coming up
Coming up
next.
October 25th.
UFC Edmonton November 2 with a lot of fighters from Quebec fighting. So I'll try to get the boys here at Fight 1-4 for you guys for the interview. You
Awesome.
deserve that. Fight 1-4 is there for the people, my man.
Yeah, dude, that's and a lot of the we know a lot of these young fighters, these guys coming up. It's just an extra way to give them another platform to be heard, to be seen, and a little bit more eyes. And before we close off, Max, honestly, I just want to say thank you very much. I know you put a lot of work into everything that you do, especially in getting this set up. You know what I mean? I'm proud to be the Robin to your Batman, homie. You know what I mean? And thank you for really putting your foot down when you're like, yo, let's start this. You weren't kidding. You know what I mean? So thank you very much. I'm appreciative of you, and thank you for having me on the podcast.
Man, I believe in you. I believe in this project. Honestly, I believe we're gonna be the number one Anglophone podcast about combat
Yeah.
sports, not only in Montreal, not only in Canada, but like we're gonna do big stuff together, my man. And it's a pleasure to be with you. And I thank you too for accepting the challenge of the
Yeah,
Fight
man.
1-4. And maybe we'll touch back on why we call this the Fight 1-4 podcast next time, guys. We have a little bit more to tell you about, but
Of
that was a
course.
blast, bro. We'll try to make it an hour every time because we don't want to
That's
be too
perfect.
long. So
Yeah,
you have
yeah,
you have a
exactly.
wife and a kid, and I have a
Yes.
cat. So
Yeah, I got a puppy too, bro. So,
let's go take care of our loved ones, broski. But that was
Yeah,
the
that's
origin stories, guys. So clip that podcast, put it in a box in your safe place, and this will make history, I promise. And
Yes, sir.
man, to way more episode, my guy.
Yes, sir.
Take care,
Have a
guys.
great one, brother.